Hello everyone, my name is Imani Green and this is my 5P project, Mental Health for Students. Let me make sure I'm recording this time. So P1 is passion. The passion I've selected for this project is mental health for students, specifically focusing on access to mental health services in schools. Over 17% of United States children ages 2 through 8 has a diagnosed mental, behavioral, or developmental disorder. The most common mental health issues for children and adolescents are attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD. They also have anxiety, depression, and behavioral disorders. Major depression amongst adolescents ages 12 to 17 increased 52% from 2015 to 2017. Since most children spend 5 days out of the week at school, schools are in a position to help children get early access to mental health services. Undiagnosed, untreated, or inadequately treated mental illnesses can significantly interfere with a student's ability to learn, grow, and develop. Supporting children's mental health is critical to their psychological well-being, social and emotional development, academic achievement, and long-term success. Even prior to COVID-19, the need for mental and behavioral services in schools were great, while the shortages of trained school professionals began to rise across the country. There is growing evidence that the mental health of children and youth is deteriorating in the current environment. Remote learning and lack of social interaction due to the pandemic have caused varying levels of trauma and emotional distress, with particularly damaging results for the most vulnerable students, including students of color, those with disabilities, and students who are part of the LGBTQ community. At this time, we are seeing an unprecedented level of learning loss, which has further exacerbated disparities in educational attainment among racial and socioeconomic groups. So, here are some facts that I got from the CDC. ADHD, behavioral problems, anxiety, and depression are the most commonly diagnosed mental disorders in children. 9.4% of children aged 2 through 17 years old have received an ADHD diagnosis. That's 6.1 million students or children. 7.4% of children aged 3 through 17, approximately 4.5 million have a diagnosed behavior problem. 7.1% of students aged 3 through 17, approximately 4.4 million, have diagnosed anxiety. 3.2% of children aged 3 through 17, 1.9 million, have diagnosed depression. Some of these conditions commonly occur together. For example, having another disorder is most common in children with depression. About 3 in 4 children aged 3 through 17 years with depression also have anxiety. That's 73%. And almost 1 in 2 have a behavioral problem. That's 47%. Children aged 3 through 17 with anxiety More than 1 in 3 also have behavioral problems, that's 37%, and also 1 in 3 also have depression, that's 32%. For children aged 3 through 17 with behavioral problems, more than 1 in 3 also have anxiety, that's 36%, and about 1 in 5 also have depression, that's 20%. So here's P2, that's profession. Clinical social workers are the nation's largest group of providers of mental health services, helping people oversee depression, anxiety, and other disorders. NASW maintains its commitment to enhancing the well-being of people living with mental illnesses and working towards increased access to appropriate services and interventions. This commitment is based on the premise that a holistic view of clients integrates the needs for services in both physical and mental health. NASW is committed to improving mental health services and for the public policy advocacy to improve the quality of care, access, reimbursement, research, and education in mental health. NASW encourages providers to embrace evolving technologies in an effort to maximize accessibility of services and minimize barriers to mental health treatment using non-traditional interventions. During the pandemic, we noticed the mandated shutdowns, so a lot of people were not able to get traditional treatment and they had to turn to telehealth. So, with the increase of telehealth, more people were actually able to access healthcare because they didn't have the same barriers like transportation. And they even have some of these apps that they have are like $1 a month for counseling. So they're making it to where almost anyone can afford it. They have support groups now, Zooms, phone calls, text hotlines. So they're definitely making it more accessible for everyone. My passion as it relates to the code of ethics. So here are some of the code of ethics that I have. Or not the code of ethics, but here are some things from the code of ethics that I were able to match up to my passion. So the first one I have is competence. The ethical principle, ethical principle. Social workers practice within their areas of competence and develop and enhance their professional expertise. Social workers continually strive to increase their professional knowledge and skills and to apply them in practice. Social workers should aspire to contribute to the knowledge base of the profession. The next one is commitment to client. Social workers' primary responsibility is to promote the well-being of clients. In general, clients' interests are primary. However, social workers' responsibility to the larger society or specific legal obligations on limited occasions may surpass the loyalty owed to the clients. The client should be advised. Examples include when a social worker is required by law to report that a client has abused a child or has threatened to harm self or others. The next one is self-determination. Social workers respect and promote the right of clients to self-determination and assist clients in their effort to identify and clarify their goals. Social workers may limit clients' rights to self-determination when, in the social worker's professional judgment, clients' actions or potential actions pose a serious, foreseeable, and imminent risk to themselves or others. Moving on, we are on P3, that is the policy. So the policy that I chose is HR 721, the Mental Health Services for Students Act. This was introduced February 2nd, 2021. So far, it has passed the House. The Mental Health Services for Students Act will help students by providing access to more comprehensive on site mental health care services for students and their communities by revising, increasing funds for, and expanding the scope of SAMHSA's Project Aware grant for state educational agencies. Promoting positive mental health education and supporting for parents, siblings, and other members of children with mental health disorders, as well as concerned members of the community. Allowing teachers to concentrate on teaching by providing comprehensive, culturally and linguistically appropriate services to support students in need of mental health care and those at risk for behavioral mental health disorders. P4 is my person. The person I chose was Congresswoman Grace Napolitano. Napolitano. I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. She represents California's 32nd District. She has been serving in Congress since 1999. She's also a representative of the Democratic Party. I chose Grace Napolitano because of her strong stance on mental health. Congresswoman Napolitano is perhaps best known for her groundbreaking work on mental health. Her 2001 pilot program providing mental health and suicide prevention services on site in 4 schools has expanded to 35 K-12 schools throughout the San Gabriel Valley and Southeast LA County, with assistance from Los Angeles County Mental Health, which now serves as a model for the HR 721 Act. 721, the Mental Services for Students Act. As the founder and co-chair of the Congressional Mental Health Caucus, she was active in securing mental health parity in the Affordable Care Act, and she dedicates tremendous energy to promoting mental health legislation and working with key players to increase funding and access to the mental health services. Congresswoman Napolitano connection is that she has already implemented this program, like I mentioned in the last slide. And it's currently operating for 35 local schools. Although the act has not been passed onto a bill, it has passed the House so far, and she is leading by example. She is also the co-sponsor of this act. If people are interested in reaching out to her, I would suggest using the contact form on her website. P5 is practice. So, NAMI is one of the agencies that I chose. So, NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for millions of Americans affected by mental illnesses. Mental health in school. This is their stance. NAMI believes that the public policies and practices should promote greater awareness and early identification of mental health conditions. NAMI supports public policies and laws that enable all schools, public and private, to increase access to appropriate mental health services. This is the next organization I chose. It's Active Minds. Active Minds is the nation's premier nonprofit organization supporting mental health awareness and education for young adults. Active Minds is the nation's leader for young adults, mental health advocacy, and suicide prevention. Headquartered in Washington, D.C., Active Mind brings to mental health what no other organization can: the voice of young people who are disproportionately affected by mental illness and the way that mental health is addressed on campuses and in society at large. Now in its 18th year, Active Minds is present in more than 1,000 schools, communities, and workplaces nationwide, including 600 student-led chapters. Their programs and services empower young adults to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health, create communities of support, and ultimately save lives. So this is just a summary of my interview. The person I chose for my interview was Dr. Sonia Hunt. She is the advisor of NAMI Wilberforce, Ohio chapter. This is at the university. This is on the campus of Central State University. At Central State University, she is also the director of counseling services. Dr. Hunt is supportive of the Mental Health Services Act for students. As a social worker, she has served students from middle school on through college. She has also been passionate about from what she explained, she's always been very passionate about mental health as it pertains to minority communities. She hopes to continue her work raising awareness and stopping the stigma. She hopes the more policies like the Mental Health Act services or the Mental Health Services for Student Act will appear for students in college, since the light is being shined on the aftermath of the pandemic on college students' mental state. My interview with Dr. Hunt was very informative and increased my support of mental health services for Student Act. It made me aware of the Higher Education Mental Act of 2019. I hadn't heard of that act before speaking with her, but she had told me to look into it and said that it was basically research to see what more can be done for students at universities. She mentioned that there was a decline, that students are dropping out because of mental strain. The interview was very informative, and it left me with a lot to think about. Here's my conclusion. I learned that mental health disorders are increasing in young adult population and that there is a shortage of mental health professionals in schools across the country. This is also, like when I mentioned with my interview with Dr. Hunt about the shortage, this is also on universities as well. She mentioned how most universities may have 1 to 2 counselors trying to service thousands of students on and off campus. Some next steps would be to continue to raise awareness on the policy and to increase access of or and the increase of access to mental health care in schools. Some steps for me personally would be to continue to educate myself on the subject and encourage people to help vote more policies into place that will help benefit students across the mental health. Benefit students access to mental health care. Here are my references, and thank you very much.